Indiana just won the college football playoff and just won the national championship. Let that sink in. Why? Is this kind of a one-time thing? Let's talk about it. So we can finally sit here and legitimately pinch ourselves and wake up from this dream. It's actually reality. The Indiana Hoosiers have won the national championship in football. Wake up. This is a reality. So I don't really know how to actually process this, but this is the way of the world that we're living in as of right now. As always, hit the subscribe button if you want to hear more first reactions like this. We do a lot of hockey content as well, the food reviews and whatever. But lately, this has been the time for all these things to come apart. And one thing we'll just simply set and put down. Simply enough, it was a good matchup that we saw. Indiana defeated Miami 27-21 in the national championship, which was in Miami. It was in Miami's home stadium. But when you do a national championship effort and you look at it, you see it's always half and half one color or half the other color. But let's just dissect of what was going on, and basically, how in the world are we even living in a world that Indiana is the national champion of college football? People need to remember, not necessarily this is the time of frame that we live in, as in this moment in 2026. We are in the moment of evolution in regards to all sports. Doesn't matter, NFL, NHL, baseball, soccer, basketball. College sports is technically no different. You couldn't do a lot of things 20 years ago. Now you can do 1,000 things that you thought was so highly illegal, it was ridiculous. You can buy players now. You can buy a coaching staff. You can take somebody from another school, you can offer them a bigger deal. You can do whatever pretty much necessary in the roundabout of what you can do in college sports. You couldn't do that 20 years ago. You couldn't do that 10 years ago. Indiana, let's just be clear about this. They are a basketball school. They always have been a basketball school, always have been, always will be. Until they started getting the right players, until Kurt Cignetti came into the fruition. He came from IUP, coached in James Madison, won there, and then took the good job in the Big Ten. In 2 years, Indiana is on top of the nation in college football. And some people may want to think he might be the next coming of Nick Saban, but he's even a Pennsylvania guy, and he turned this entire football program on its head and pretty much just turned this into a winner. In the game itself, Indiana wins 27-21, never ever lost the lead in this game. It was 10-0 at half. But everything goes down to pretty much why was Indiana 16-0 and they were good all year. Majority of the games were actually competitive because Indiana, they were a powerhouse this year, but not exactly. They got into a fist fight with Penn State, but won. Got into a handful of games close and won. Then they get into the playoff and they dismantle Alabama. They upset Ohio State, and then they go in and they knock off and they absolutely abuse Oregon in the Final Four. And then they go in and they take on a Miami team that many people think shouldn't even have been in the playoff. You could have argued with Miami or Notre Dame, but Miami, let's just be realistic. Miami's trying to get that swagger and that in the old terms we like to use in Gen X, the glamour and glitz of what the U used to be in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. And here's Miami back in the national championship, and with Carson back in those boys. Let's just be realistic. It was a good game. It wasn't Georgia destroying TCU 63-7. It wasn't Michigan beating Washington 31-14 or whatever it was. It was a good close counter. It was a good matchup. This was something Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit wanted to call, and they got to it. They're always really good in college football calling. It was a very good on and off on enough game. Miami kept it close, got it within 14-7. Then that blocked punt changed everything in that game. And it ended up being that Indiana drove down the field, and whatever that was, that run by Fernando Mendoza is going to go down probably as one of the greatest things ever happen in Indiana history. It's not that play itself will be probably one of the greatest things to ever happen in the program of Indiana. And they held on, and at 27-21, Miami had a chance to come back in that game. Carson Beck, who has already graduated, by the way, transferred from Georgia, win a national championship there, transfers to Miami and tries to get one more, and he throws a pick at the end. It was a pretty bad throw, unfortunately. And we're now looking at pretty much one of the most underrated things to ever happen, but it ends up turning into be one of the best stories, not just in college sports, but probably in sports altogether, because Indiana was a laughingstock in football, always have been. So first off, let's just go to some of the easiest things. We talked about the coach. You get the right coach, you can change anything overnight, maybe even a year or two. Kirk Cinetti did it in 2 years, and it's a 16-0 team. And then you get to Fernando Mendoza, who wins the Heisman Trophy. I look at his stats, 16-27 for $186. Didn't throw a touchdown, didn't really have to, but the throws he makes, you wonder where Indiana got all of these players, these receivers you never heard of, these receivers that are either walk-ons, they came from a Division II AA school, no idea where they are, and they're catching balls that there shouldn't even be caught, like the one against Penn State. Some of these people don't even know what they're doing, and they get 7 catches for $150. Fernando Mendoza knows how to throw the football. And the one thing about Mendoza is not just is he a man of God, and some people think he may be the next Tim Tebow, but Mendoza has a body of a quarterback. He's got the mindset of a quarterback, throws a good ball, has a great demeanor, doesn't get rattled. And after after what he was able to do to win the Heisman Trophy this year, this is a real reason why probably 99% is probably going to be going to the Raiders as the first overall pick. And owner Mark Davis and majority stockholder and 7-time champion Tom Brady both were in attendance for this game, watching Mendoza up close. And quite honestly, Mendoza more likely is going to be a Raider, and he's going to fit the bill. He's going to be an NFL quarterback, and he'll probably be the one quarterback in the draft this year that is going to hit. The Raiders will have their quarterback, and it's going to be their answer. I mean, it's not like the Andrew Luck situation, and you need to score on quarterback. It's not going to be Aiden O'Connell. It's not going to be Kenny Pickett, and sure as heck isn't going to be Geno Smith. Get your foundation and start from scratch. As far as Mendoza will be the guy. Praise God to everything. They've had a bunch of people, a bunch of stars. How do you get these people? Where do these guys come from? This is the age of the transfer portal. A school that does not do well at all in anything, you can go get players. You can buy players. When Kirk Cinetti came to Indiana, he took a handful of his James Madison people with him, and they can play. They can ball. And that is how you can build a team. Texas Tech made the Final Four this year. Ole Miss made the Final Four this year. Well, Texas Tech actually was a top 4 seed. They couldn't do anything against Oregon. We're now in this era where some teams can actually come out and actually be good. A Mississippi State can be good. Purdue could be good. Boise State can be back to fruition. Washington State, who knows? Indiana has put that blueprint out for everybody. You got to score coach, you got to score boosters, you got to win the transfer portal. But at the end of the day, recruiting is always big. But Indiana now makes it 3 in a row for the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana win the last 3 national championships. Will this be? Indiana will be pretty much a top contender. Is this a flash lightning in a bottle one time that we see Indiana win the championship? I don't know, because you got Oregon going to be coming back. Ohio State's pissed off. They'll be back. Penn State's going to regroup. Virginia Tech's getting James Franklin. And then you always get the big dogs. Texas will be back with Arch Manning. Florida State, who knows what they'll do. Alabama's always going to be there. Ole Miss will definitely be there. USC never, ever leaves the party. But Indiana, I kid you not, this win, this national championship, without a question, this will trump every basketball national championship they've ever won. And as I close this one out, just think of it. Of all the things the University of Indiana has ever done, of all the things, remember, 1979 won their first bowl under the legendary College Game Day's own Lee Corso. Then they win a couple national championships, Bobby Knight era. This era right here, Kirk Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana Hoosiers, this will be the greatest day. This is the greatest moment in the history of the University of Indiana. And as a Penn State fan, a Big Ten supporter, we'll take the win as the Big Ten. In the end of the day, it is, in fact, Hoosiers win it all.